Trump and Q on the invisible enemy, the extraterrestrial factor. There have been multiple references to an invisible enemy by President Donald Trump and Q, aka QAnon, which white hats in the US military intelligence community are presently fighting in an information war. While mainstream news outlets claim Trump is merely referring to COVID-19 as the invisible enemy that has inflicted the US and the rest of the planet, what emerges from examining the wider context of his remarks and Q posts is that the real enemy Trump is alluding to is a deep state which has a non-human dimension that is behind the plandemic. Trump's repeated references to the invisible enemy have been noted by mainstream media outlets as merely a rhetorical flourish to combating the COVID-19 virus. For example, Jack Schaefer, writing for Politico, said on April 9, quote, "Ever since President Donald Trump made his bootleg turn on coronavirus in mid-March, finally conceding the magnitude of the pandemic, he has attempted to brand the contagion as an invisible enemy." Trump first used the phrase in a March 16 coronavirus task force press conference, saying, "No matter where you look, this is something, it's an invisible enemy." Obviously a conscious coinage designed to add Trumpian seasoning to headlines. The president made sure to return to the phrase about a minute later, saying, "I just say this, we have an invisible enemy." Ever since, Trump has used the expression in letters, remarks, interviews, tweets, video blogs, but especially in the campaign-style presses about the virus he's been staging almost daily since his turnaround. According to the fact-based database, Trump has exploited the expression at least 44 times in what looks like his effort to anthropomorphize the virus into a sentient thing with evil intentions on mankind. End quote. Is this what Trump is doing with his repeated references to an invisible enemy, merely alluding to something so small it can't be seen? Or is he referring to an invisible enemy that orchestrated the emergence of COVID-19? Trump's repeated references to World War II in the lead-up to the following quote provides a context suggesting that he is referring to something far more sinister behind the global virus than merely an accidental natural occurrence.
In World War II, young people in their teenage years volunteered to fight. They wanted to fight so badly because they love our country. Workers refused to go home and slept on factory floors to keep assembly lines running. And, the numbers of ships that they built during World War II to this day nothing like that has ever been equal. They were doing ships literally on a daily basis. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And to this day, nobody's seen anything like that, what they were able to do during World War II. And now it's our time. We must sacrifice together because we are all in this together and we'll come through together. It's the invisible enemy. That's always the toughest enemy, the invisible enemy, but we're going to defeat the invisible enemy. I think we're going to do it even faster than we thought, and it will be a complete victory. It'll be a total victory.
The wider context of Trump's remarks on the invisible enemy point to it as the deep state, which he and his administration have been battling even before his presidential inauguration. The civil war between the Trump administration and the deep state is a battle between those wanting to free humanity from an oppressive group of global controllers that has enslaved humanity through its domination of the mainstream media and political, financial, cultural, and religious institutions for centuries, if not millennia. Authors such as Jim Marrs, Rule by Secrecy, 2001, and William Branley, Gods of Eden, 1993, have presented compelling evidence exposing the global controllers/deep state as elite ruling bloodline families that trace their ancestry back to extraterrestrial colonists banished to Earth millennia ago. They both reveal that in humanity's far distant past, extraterrestrials directly ruled over humanity and then installed human-alien hybrids to rule as proxies, as described in historical documents such as Sumer's King's List and Manetho's Chronicle of pre-dynastic Egyptian rulers. These hybrid proxy rulers evolved to become the ruling bloodline families that have controlled humanity from behind the scenes using ancient knowledge and technologies handed down from their extraterrestrial overlords, reptilian entities according to Mars and others. In the 1930s and 1940s, these bloodline families gained access to more recent and powerful extraterrestrial technologies acquired through off-planet visitors attracted to Earth's rapid industrialization and looming development of atomic weapons. First Germany, Italy, and then the US, Britain, Soviet Union/Russia, and China all gained access to extraterrestrial technologies that became the most highly classified secrets in their respective military-industrial complexes. The advanced technologies were all developed in compartmentalized programs controlled by ruling elites who had no intention of sharing such technologies with the rest of humanity, but merely appropriating them for their exclusive use. In Kennedy's Last Stand, I explain how and why both Forrestal and Kennedy, who enjoyed a warm friendship, were killed by the deep state for their respective efforts to disclose or gain access to classified extraterrestrial technologies and reveal the principal figures and entities behind their respective assassinations. Today, China has been heavily infiltrated by the deep state, which has compromised its leading scientific and military institutions. It's no accident that the epicenter for the emergence of the COVID-19 virus is China, which the deep state has been covertly supporting since the Communist Revolution, as I explain in my book, Rise of the Red Dragon, an upcoming webinar series. This takes us to President Trump, who was recruited by the US military intelligence community in 2015 to help free the US from the power of the deep state, which I've discussed previously. Trump surrounded himself with both deep state figures and white hats to disguise his true intentions. The contrived efforts by the deep state to first prevent Trump from being elected and then removing him from office is well illustrated in the Russia collusion hoax, the sham investigation of his first national security advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and the contrived Ukraine impeachment charges. As we approach the November 3, 2020 election, the deep state has finally unleashed its deck of global control cards to prevent Trump from winning re-election. The COVID-19 plandemic and civil unrest through a contrived race war are both driven by an incessant mainstream media narrative run by the deep state to manipulate the general public into giving up their civil liberties. The deep state has also arranged for major social media platforms to censor citizen journalists and alternative media, which are increasingly viewed as truth-tellers by the awakening public who are disgusted by the non-stop fear porn generated by the mainstream media. This is where Q and the global movement it has spawned becomes important for understanding the invisible enemy that is locked in a behind-the-scenes life and death struggle with the Trump administration. Most who follow Q accept that it represents a group of individuals connected to the military intelligence community and officials that are closely tied to President Trump. Multiple images provided by Q are originals taken inside Trump's Oval Office and Air Force One, corroborating claims that the president is directly involved. Many believe that one of the signatures used by Q, Q+, is Trump himself. Q, like Trump, has referred to the invisible enemy that is attempting to enslave humanity. In a June 29 post, number 4545, Q wrote, quote, "If America falls, so does the world. If America falls, darkness will soon follow. Only when we stand together, only when we are united, can we defeat this highly entrenched dark enemy. We are living in biblical times. Children of light versus children of darkness, united against the invisible enemy of all humanity." End quote. Clearly, Q is not referring to the COVID-19 virus, but is instead describing a powerful group of individuals and organizations, the children of darkness, aka the deep state. Q also quotes in its entirety a letter addressed to Trump from the former papal nuncio to the US, Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano that similarly refers to the deep state as an invisible enemy attempting to enslave humanity. Quote, "There are faithful shepherds who care for the flock of Christ, but there are also mercenary infidels who seek to scatter the flock and hand the sheep over to be devoured by ravenous wolves." It is not surprising that these mercenaries are allies of the children of darkness and hate the children of light. Just as there is a deep state, there is also a deep church that betrays its duties and forswears its proper commitments before God. Thus the invisible enemy, whom good rulers fight against in public affairs, is also fought against by good shepherds in the ecclesiastical sphere. United against the invisible enemy of all humanity, I bless you and the First Lady, the beloved American nation, and all men and women of good will. Vigano equates a demonic deep church exerting a corrupting influence over honest clergymen wanting to serve humanity with the deep state doing the same with official government service. Significantly, Q has alluded to a reptilian extraterrestrial influence over the Vatican in an April 3rd, 2018 post that contained a meme with a serpent and the question, "If Satanists took over the Vatican, would you notice?" In an article examining Q's post, I explain how the serpent imagery fits in with multiple insider claims of reptilian extraterrestrials secretly controlling the Vatican. It's clear from examining President Trump's repeated references to an invisible enemy and similar references by Q and Archbishop Vigano that he is referring to the deep state as the true threat to humanity. An examination of the individuals and groups comprising the deep state reveals a significant extraterrestrial factor in its origins and operations. If Trump and White Hats succeed in defeating the deep state, humanity will have freed itself of an ancient invisible enemy that has manipulated human affairs through contrived global events for centuries, if not millennia. We are truly living in biblical times, as Archbishop Vigano asserts, where the children of light are locked in a spiritual war against the children of darkness. This has been Dr. Michael Salla with exopolitics.org. I want to announce an upcoming webinar beginning on July 11, which examines China's secret space program. In the first week, I examine in particular the origins of China's secret space program and the role of the deep state in helping China acquire the most sophisticated destructive technologies known to humanity at the time. Thank you for subscribing, and aloha.